it's me, Rena from Snailworks Crochet, and I have 500 subscribers on my YouTube channel. So as like a special 500 subscriber special, I wanted to take advantage of this milestone and do the crochet creator tag, which I believe was started by the Faded Wildflower Crochet. I watched that on her channel, and then I watched Killian do it over at Binding Maple, and then I watched Michaela do it at Michaela Makes. And even though I was not tagged, I still want to do it anyway, because why not? It's for everybody. So I pulled up the video, and in the video description, she actually lists all of the questions below. So I'm going to answer them one by one. And while I answer these questions, I will be working on a project that you will be seeing in an upcoming video. I guess let's get started. How did you learn to crochet? Funny enough, I guess this will kind of go into my personal lore of how I even started to crochet. So this is kind of answering two questions of why and how a little bit. I think about October of 2022. Wait, is it 2022 or 2023? Okay, October of 2023. Me and my friend, who is also my coworker, went on a work trip, and we aligned our travel schedule to be on the same plane as each other. So while we were waiting to board the plane in that waiting area, I saw her pull out a crochet project. She was working on a checkered blanket of some sort, and I was just watching her crochet, and I was almost mesmerized by like the movements almost. It was just really fun to just watch her crochet. And so because of that, I think I asked her a couple of questions. I was like, oh, how did you learn how to do this? You know, what are you making? You know, all that stuff. And for reference, this friend, shout out to my friend Krissa May, she in general is a very crafty person and artistic person. So like she kind of does a variety of different arts and crafts regardless. So her crocheting is no surprise to me. As I was watching her crochet, I was like, I couldn't stop staring and stop looking, and I'm like, I want to do that. And so after that trip, I went over to Joann's. I picked up some yarn. I picked up a couple of Susan Bates crochet hooks, and then I also picked up a Woobles Learn to Crochet kit. From the Woobles crochet kit, I actually watched the videos. I made the little amigurumi thing from the crochet kit, and it kind of snowballed from there. In a roundabout way, I learned how to crochet from the Woobles. From the Woobles crochet kit, I learned the basic stitches, basic increases and all that. And then afterward, I reached out to another friend of mine who I know crochets in her free time. That's kind of her thing. She's done it since we were in high school, and we're high school friends. I reached out to that friend and said, hey, I am interested in crocheting. Do you have any pattern suggestions for like a beginner? And she gave me a couple, and I started doing them. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, honestly. So yes, that is how I learned how to crochet. I learned how to crochet initially from Woobles, and then after that from a variety of YouTube videos. The next question asks, what is your favorite thing to crochet? And my favorite thing to crochet are granny squares, because I don't know, you can do a lot with granny squares, and granny squares are kind of just the fundamental part of crochet. I'm not entirely sure. I do have a couple of things that I like to crochet versus things I don't like to crochet, and like what I like to crochet with. I think in terms of what I like to make, I just like making granny squares. And so here I am connecting a bunch of granny squares. It's funny because when I first started crocheting, I thought granny squares were super ugly, but maybe I Stockholm syndrome myself into liking the look of granny squares. I don't know. It's all about color choices at the end of the day, but yeah, I like to crochet granny squares. If you could use one yarn for the rest of your life, what would it be? You know, so the yarn I tend to lean towards is cotton. But the thing is, like, I don't like all cotton. I don't know if this question refers to like a specific brand of yarn or like a type of yarn. If it's a type of yarn, I would say cotton. But in terms of brand, I don't really have like a favorite brand. Okay, I lied. I really do like paint box cotton, but even then, like, it's not the end of the world if I like never use it again. And I haven't used it recently because I have a lot of this other worsted cotton that I kind of need to get rid of, which is kind of funny because I have so much of it, but it's not my favorite cotton. I also tend to really like baby yarns just because they're so nice and soft on your fingers. It's smooth, it's very smooth, and it glides quite nicely. So what is the weirdest thing you've ever made? You know, I haven't really gotten that far in my crochet journey to delve into cursed crochet, and I do know one day I want to do that because I love cursed crochet. But I don't think I've made anything super weird that would like classify as something like, oh yeah, that's a weird thing that you've made. Just because a lot of the things I have made are kind of basic almost. So I don't really have an answer for that. The thing is, the weirdest thing I've made was more so because it was a joke, not necessarily because like the actual thing itself was weird. I guess the quote unquote weirdest thing I made was in relation to that like shrimp fried rice joke where I made an amigurumi shrimp, attached it to a wok, and said, "You telling me a shrimp fried this rice?" But that's not weird, you know? That's not like, the crochet item itself is not weird. It's just the framing was goofy. So I don't really have anything for this category, which is sad because I like me some weird crochet. What is something you'll never crochet? Bikinis, shorts, those two, bikinis and shorts. I am a thick thigh individual, and for me, the idea of like textured shorts, like a crochet short, is awful because I'm like, that sounds like a sensory nightmare. And then the other one is a bikini, also because that sounds like a sensory nightmare. Also because I don't wear bikinis. I have too many self-image issues to wear one, but also like it also sounds like a sensory nightmare. Like every time I see crochet shorts and crochet bikinis, I'm like, you know, those look cute and those look like they'd be fun to make, but I would never wear it. Why would I make it if I'm not gonna wear it? But yeah, those are the two things I will never crochet. The next question asks, where do you get your inspiration? And that's kind of difficult because I am an uninspired person, but for things to crochet, a lot of it's just through social media. People will make something and I think that looks really cool and I want to make it, and then I'll put it in my to make list and then never work on it. But you know, that's my inspiration, is social media. Also, in terms of video ideas, I'd also say social media and just the crochet YouTube community as well. Channels I'd like to shout out for video inspiration would be Passionate Kelsey, Viney Maple, and Chromatic Creations. I would say those are my YouTube inspiration because I really like how they format all their videos. They're able to portray like that cozy vibe while also still being kind of like engaging. You can tell that they're introverted people, but they're introverted people with the ability to utilize their introversion into something visually appealing to watch, and that is a hard thing. I really respect them for that because that is hard. It is very hard. So I'm not very good at editing, but I will say some of my like YouTube video inspiration comes from them. Oh, I am going to need to block this, oh boy. What is your favorite thing that you've made so far this year? It's funny because I actually realize as I think about it, I haven't started a lot of projects and I haven't made or completed a lot of projects. This isn't crochet, but I'd say like my favorite thing that I've made so far this year is actually a knitted colorwork hat. I am both proud of it and also it's just so pretty. So I can't help but love it so much. Let me go ahead and get it for you. This is it. This is the hat. I'm like put it on for the rest of the video. It's funny because like I never thought I would knit ever again, but here I am doing more knitting, so I think that's pretty cool. For crochet, I think the only things I've finished are star blankets. So I don't really have a big repertoire of like things I've made that I like this year. Oh yeah, no, actually, I just remembered. In terms of crochet of things I've made this year, I am very happy and proud of my first tapestry crochet pattern, which is a Lunar New Year wall hanging that I made. I'm very proud of that. I love it. I also have a free pattern for it, which is available on both my coffee shop for free and Ravelry. So if you want to check that out, feel free to check that out in the description below. This hat and that wall hanging are my two makes that I am most proud of this year. Todd. What are the crochet plans that I'm most excited about for this year? In terms of crochet plans, I don't have any completely set in stone. I remember talking to my friends a little bit about wanting to do a market this year, and then we never went around and like signed up for one. We need to do that because all the sign-ups are basically ending now. But I think that's a thing we want to do in the future, but it's not like a set in stone plan. So to actually answer the question, the crochet plan I'm excited about in the imminent future is I'm making a cosplay with crochet, so I think that's exciting. So yeah, that's it. What is the worst thing about crochet? Oh, I messed up. I guess that's what happens when you do it distracted. Let me go back to what I was actually saying. You know, I think that question can be interpreted in a multitude of different ways, whether it's talking about the crochet community itself and like whatever drama happens, or like whether it's like just talking about the craft itself. I'd say like, I mean, I don't have too much of an issue with the crochet community. I mean, there's a couple of criticisms I have of the crochet community, but I don't think that's necessarily inherent to crochet itself. I think that's just inherent to like the nature of anything relating to social media. Like for example, I don't really like how finding crochet pattern testers is all based upon your social media clout. Some creators only look for pattern testers based upon follower count. I think that's a negative in the crochet community, but I also think that's a negative in like all of social media as well. My opinion is that the worst thing about crochet is that it will never be fully appreciated properly. So one is the fact that like crochet can only be handmade, so like, you know, people will never pay for handmade goods. Two, if you're making garments, for example, people are so used to the appearance of knit garments, they will never appreciate crochet garments. Even if it's well made, well constructed, like the limitations of the craft itself exclude it from not looking like the average person is used to. And I mean, I'm guilty of this too. Like, I don't like the look of double crochet sweaters. I also think a lot of granny square garments are kind of ugly. When they're done and constructed in a more interesting way, I appreciate them a little bit more. And also, as I crochet more, I appreciate just the labor behind it more. But even then, like, so while I acknowledge the hard work behind it, like, I can see the average person who doesn't crochet not liking the look and thinking it's a little ugly or just not for them. And that's kind of what I mean by, like, I don't think the craft will ever be fully appreciated. Like, both in aesthetics and in, like, labor associated. The average person mainly wants, like, a basic knit sweater. They don't want a crochet sweater. And I mean, I get why. Like, as a crocheter, I find a lot of crochet items to be bulky and heavy unless if you use really fine weight yarn. And most people don't like working with fine weight yarn, which, to be fair, does make a garment made with fine weight yarn more appreciated, at least by other crocheters. It's a weird balance, but I think that's the worst thing about crochet, is that it will just never be fully appreciated for what it is, and I think that's implemented by a mixture of fast fashion, but also just like people not realizing that if something doesn't look conventional, it will always be ignored as something quirky. And sometimes quirky is fun, but not everyone thinks that, or not everyone appreciates quirk, even if it's well made. I mean, I guess the niche people will, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to elaborate my thing on that. It is making me think of something that Teal Yarncraft said when she saw her like comment about crochet being ugly, is that crochet is not ugly, you're just not used to looking at it. And that kind of sums up why I think it will never be appreciated. People are not used to looking at it, so because they're not used to it, they think it's ugly. And therefore, because they're not used to looking at it, they don't appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, that's it. And the last question is, what is your favorite thing about crochet? Well, I will say one thing I like about crochet is the community. Everyone's really nice. I'm kind of awkward when it comes to interacting with folks online because I'm bad at using social media despite being chronically online. But like everyone in general is just genuinely nice. In terms of like the craft though, the craft is very soothing and therapeutic almost, and it's also fairly easy to do. I think it's a very interesting entryway into doing all sorts of other creative outlets. I think a lot of people have talked about the crochet to sewing pipeline, where you start off with crochet and then you start knitting and then you're like, oh, I want to try sewing. And it's the only pipeline I like. I just like the fact that it exists as a thing, and it's now easier than ever to learn how to do it, and also just like do in general. Crochet has always been associated as this old lady craft, but I do think, you know, a new generation's picking it up, and I think that's really cool. I mean, I am one of them, and I really like how accessible it is now to do so through Wooble's kits or through online YouTube tutorials. So I like that about it, and it's just fun to do. It's also pretty easy to do. You know, it's good for your mental health. So yeah, that's what I like about crochet. I think those are the end of my questions. I will conclude the video here. I will link to the creators I mentioned in the description below. And with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for 500 subscribers, and I will see you around. Bye!